Have you ever asked yourself, why do some people work endlessly and still struggle, while others seem to move ahead with ease? Is success just about working harder, or is it about working smarter? This is a story about two boys, one mountain and a flower. But more than that, it's about a lesson that can transform your life. In a quiet village nestled between green fields and dusty roads stood an old school. It wasn't fancy. The roof creaked during storms, and the walls were cracked with age. But inside there was something far more precious, a teacher named Srimant Babu. He was nearly 70. His beard was white, his hands were thin, but his eyes sparkled with wisdom. He didn't just teach from books, he taught with his heart. Generations had learned from him, and he treated every child like his own. Among his students were two boys, Robbie and Sujan. Robbie was the definition of discipline. Every morning, he'd wake up at dawn and dive straight into his books. He memorized every page, solved every problem, and believed that hard work alone was the key to success. Sujan, on the other hand, was sharp. He asked questions. He wanted to understand why things worked. He knew hard work was important, but he also believed in finding better ways to do things. Their minds were different, but their circumstances were even more so. Robbie came from a modest but stable middle-class family. His only responsibility was to study. Sujan's life was far more difficult. His father was a poor farmer. Every day after school, Sujan would help in the fields planting, digging, caring until the sun disappeared behind the hills. But Sujan carried a fire inside him, a dream, a quiet defiance of the world that told him he wouldn't amount to anything. One evening after a long day of labor, Sujan returned home covered in dust and sweat. The house was small, dark, and quiet. His father sat silently in the corner, exhausted. The family had barely enough food. But instead of resting, Sujan lit a flickering kerosene lamp, opened his books, and began to study. His father's voice cut through the silence. "Why are you wasting your time with those books? You know we're poor. Studying won't feed us." Sujan swallowed his pain. His voice trembled, but his words were clear. "If I don't study, Father, we will always stay poor." There was no reply, only silence. His father looked away. That night, Sujan didn't sleep. Tears fell, but his hands kept turning pages. His body was tired, but his dream was wide awake. Weeks passed. One day, Srimant Babu gathered the class and made an announcement. "Today, I give you your final test, a task that will show me who you truly are." The class leaned forward. "Somewhere atop that mountain," he continued, "grows a rare and beautiful flower. The student who brings it to me first will pass." The next morning, Robbie sprang into action. Without hesitation, he grabbed his bag and ran toward the mountain. His legs pumped, his back ached, but he didn't stop. Sweat drenched his clothes, his breath grew heavy, but he kept climbing. Harder, higher, faster. Sujan stood at the foot of the mountain and looked up. He didn't move. He closed his eyes for a moment, and then walked in a different direction. On the way, he met an old man resting under a tree. "Sir," Sujan asked gently, "is there a better way to reach the top?" The man smiled and nodded. "Behind the mountain, there's a narrow trail harder to find but easier to climb." Sujan thanked him, took the path, and made his way up. It wasn't easy, but it was wise. After hours of pushing his limits, Robbie finally reached the summit. He gasped for air. His knees buckled. But then, he froze. Sujan was already there, holding the flower, smiling. Robbie's heart sank. How? I worked so hard. How could he possibly beat me? The two boys returned to the school. Srimant Babu stood at the door waiting. Each boy handed him the flower. The teacher looked at Robbie and said, "You worked harder than anyone, but you believed that suffering was the only path to success. You never asked if there was a better way." Then he turned to Sujan. "You were clever, but remember, shortcuts only work when paired with effort and integrity." Robbie's eyes filled with tears. "I understand now, Guruji. Hard work isn't enough without the right thinking." Sujan lowered his head. "And I understand too. Taking the easy road without effort leads nowhere." Srimant Babu placed a hand on both their shoulders. "Success does not belong to the strongest, but to those who balance wisdom with willpower." Years passed. The boys grew into men. Robbie became a brilliant scientist, making discoveries that changed the world. because he learned to combine perseverance with perspective. Sujan became a successful entrepreneur, building businesses that helped others because he never stopped thinking, learning, and working hard. One day they returned to the village together. The school was older now, the classroom smaller, and Srimant Babu sat in his chair, frail but still wise. They knelt before him and said, Guruji, that one test on the mountain changed our lives. The teacher's eyes welled up. He whispered, I always knew. Because the real lesson wasn't in the flower, it was in how you chose to reach it. Hard work is powerful, but without direction, it can drain your soul. Smart work is efficient, but without dedication, it is hollow. Don't be the one who only climbs with pain or the one who only searches for shortcuts. Be the one who climbs wisely with purpose, patience, and passion. If this story touched something deep inside you, remember this: life doesn't reward the busiest or the smartest, it rewards those who know when to push and when to pause. Work hard, work smart, work with heart, and no mountain will ever feel impossible.